Welcome to Nottingham. How does it feel to be head coach of Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, excited. Obviously, not really sure when the next opportunity will sort of arise, and yeah, it happened, and yeah, really excited. I mean, it's obviously great to be back in the Premier League, but great to be in charge of a club with such a storied history, who I firmly believe are on their way up, and I think it's a great place for me to be.
It all happened so quickly. Can you give us some insight into the timings, the conversation about how all this came down?
Yeah, quickly is the word. Yeah, it kind of developed sort of over the weekend, but it sort of just all came to a head on the Monday, and all my staff were all different parts of the world, and we had to make some quick decisions. The president got me in a good moment. I'd just done the school run, and that's a great motivator to get back to work, mate. I think from my perspective, it was, once we got into discussions on sort of preliminary discussions on the Monday, over the weekend, but on the Monday when it got serious, I kind of didn't take too much for me to realise it's a great opportunity, and it has everything that kind of I look for in a challenge, and I was excited to take it.
Talk about Nottingham Forest being on the up. Obviously, they're having their greatest sort of spell of success, and it was under Nuno. How difficult is it going to be to take over from him? Not just because obviously of the success of the team, but also because obviously there's a lot made of the clash of styles between you and the previous head coach.
Yeah, look, again, it's the nature of football. I guess you don't really know what circumstance you'll take over. You're absolutely right. I think when you look at the job Nuno did over the last couple of years, and to be fair, Steve Coops before that, because when Coops came to the club, they weren't looking like they were going to be in the Premier League very quickly. So, they've had two excellent managers who have done fantastic work, and, like I said, sometimes you don't know when these things will end. I certainly didn't expect to finish up after winning a trophy either, so that's just the nature of football. And, in terms of the style question, again, look, it's pretty familiar territory for me. It was a similar when I took over at Spurs. They wanted to change kind of the way they played, but it's a little bit different this time, obviously, with me taking over 3 games into the season. It'll be a gradual process. But I think, if you look at the squad and even the first 2 or 3 games, I think Nuno himself was probably transitioning to something a little bit different from what it was. But you know what, even if I was playing exactly the same, we're all different. We're all different people. We talk differently, we coach differently, even if we're going to play the same style. So it's just a matter of making it as smooth as possible for the players.
Can you talk to us about your relationship with the owner? Because he's been sort of open with his praise previously during the summer. Obviously, you met up at the award ceremony in the summer as well. So just talk to us about how you sort of know Ange Postecoglou.
Look, I've been in his company 3 or 4 times. I don't know him well. We were in Athens because he was presenting me with an award and I wasn't going to turn it down. So, and it was very kind of him, and it meant a lot to me because obviously, I was raised in Australia, but I was born in Greece, and I'm very proud of both nationalities, and a lot of my sort of recognition has come on the other side of the world. So to be recognised by the country I was born in was very humbling, and so yes, I had sort of a brief interaction with him there, and there's a couple of other times. I think one was 2 or 3 years ago when Coops was managing, because we both happened to be in Athens at the same time. But I haven't spent a lot of time with him. But from afar, you just got to admire his ambition and his willingness to take everything on and create something special.
He was open about his ambition. In the statement that sort of confirmed your arrival, he was saying, we want to compete with the best, we want to win trophies. You know where this is going. So how much pressure are you under? How quickly do you think it is before you can get Nottingham Forest winning trophies?
That could have been my quote, mate. We're no different. I mean, I've said it already that that's what I want to do. I want to win trophies. That's what I've done my whole career, and that's what I want to try and do here. And from that point of view, like I said, looking at sort of the opportunity that exists here, is that every club wants to be successful for sure, but what I've seen over the last few years is since the president took over the club is that those ambitions are backed up with actions, and it's perfect conditions for me.
Richard, PLP.
What have the last few months been like for you personally? Because you say you don't expect to win a European trophy and then lose your job. And equally, you often hear from managers, it's not necessarily just about taking the next job, but the right job.
Look, it was unusual because it's never happened to me before. I mean, it's the first time I've really been, it is the first time I've been sacked. I mean, when I was with the Australian youth team, my contract finished and I kind of knew it was over, but it was the first time sort of that's happened to me, and the first time I've had an off-season off. I had, 4 or 5 weeks with the family, which has never happened before, and fair to say it was as tough for them as it was for me. But through that time, I kind of, like you said, you wonder about the next opportunity. I've never sort of put too much thought in it because every opportunity I've had has sort of come from somewhere where I haven't maybe expected it. What I did know was that I was really keen to again go to a club that will give me that platform to continue sort of the career I've had so far, and that is to continue winning things. That was important to me. Not that they're in a position to do that, but that they have that ambition. And it's like I said, if you asked me at the start of the year, would Nottingham Forest would be a possibility, I would have said to you, no way, because the job that Nuno had done and the trajectory of the club was on. But it presented itself, and I said I was happy to take it.
Obviously, you've said that this all came together pretty quickly over the course of the last 7 days. You come to a club that, in terms of the football demands, are in a similar situation to what Tottenham were with European expectations from last season. So from afar then, what's your assessment of this squad, and how well equipped do you think it is to be able to handle both domestic and European demands?
Yeah, it is a challenge for sure. We experienced it at Spurs last year, and not just us, but I think all clubs that are in Europe it's a real challenge with the demands on players these days. And I really like the squad. I think it's got great sort of balance in terms of being able to cover most positions for the rotations you need. There's a variance in styles in there that will allow you to play differently because there's no doubt European football is has different demands on you than the Premier League and the cup competitions as well, and we want to compete on all fronts. So I've only had sort of 2 days with the players, only one today with the whole squad, but I think there's a good balance there of a squad that I think is ready to compete, but also robust enough to handle what's ahead. Without
divulging any secrets, what have the conversations between you and the players been like? Because obviously, I imagine for a lot of them, they'll have gone away on international duty, and this will have come as a shock to them as well. Yeah, I think you got to let people process it. I mean, I think it's Tuesday was the first day, I've lost track of days, that I was caught out of the club, and I just kind of let the players be and the staff. I mean, it's, because, I'm sure Nuno had close relationships with all of them, and you got to let people process that. I know in the football world we tend to think that, it's that kind of business, you just move on, but they are human beings, and I thought it was really important, to let them sort of, in their own minds, deal with it the best way. But from the first conversation I had with them was that we've got a game Saturday, boys, and nothing's more important than that. Everything else we've got to park, whatever it is that we may or may not be going through. And because the responsibility for me and the players and everyone involved is to make sure that, come Saturday lunchtime, that we are absolutely ready for a big game. And, that's been the conversations. I haven't tried to sort of expand on that too much, is what's going to be our best preparation to take on, one of the Premier League's best. Is it fitting for you personally, given your recent history, that it's Arsenal away first up? Look, it is what it is. I think our first 4 games are away, so that's why I've got to look at the stadium today. I won't see it for a while. But that's okay. I mean, look, the one thing I do know is that every Premier League fixture is challenging, whether that's against clubs that are challenging for honours or others that are fighting for other things. But it's a great. It's a great game. Mikel
has got them off to a good start. I think they've strengthened over the summer for sure. They're a stronger team than they were last year, so it'll be a great challenge for us.
Have you had any feedback in terms of player availability, who's available, who won't be this weekend?
Basically, I think we've got a clean bill of health, except for Aina, who's just come back. Obviously, he had an issue with the national team. We've sent him for some scans, and we'll get some information this afternoon. But the rest of the boys, like I said, today's the first day I've got my eyes on them, and yeah, they're all fine and should be available for the weekend. Shevchenko's the other one, obviously, because he's on loan from Arsenal. It's not available.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Can we stop with photography now, please? And Natalie for the BBC.
Hi, Ange. The unity here last year at Forest was fantastic. It was a dream season. How can you create that again and build on it?
Look, I think my experience anyway. I think it's always been here. My first year at Spurs, Coops was still a manager here, and they were going through a tough time, but the supporters were still right behind him and the team. And I think again that was one of the attractions for me. How closely linked this football club is to its community. So if you can sort of harness that, then you can create something special. But that isn't going to happen overnight. They're not going to love me from the first day. That's something I've got to earn. I've got to earn their sort of trust and respect. They'll get behind us for sure because I'm the Nottingham Forest manager, and they always do. But longer term, I've got to earn people's respect and trust as I have everywhere else I've been. And I know if we can tap into that, we can create something really special. I think it's one of those unique football clubs that if you get that sort of momentum. Great things can happen.
You talk about being a winner. We know that. We know you're very straight talking, but the Forest fans will want to get to know you. In your own words, who is Ange Postecoglou and what will you bring here to the City ground?
I've never really talked about myself in the third person.
We love that.
Yeah. Look, I guess I think for the most part, what you see is what you get. I'm no different. If you sort of bump into me in the street, I try and be myself, and I'm just very passionate about what I do. Like I said, I love creating things that are lasting. I think every club I've been to, I'd like to think I'll be welcomed back because I think I've left a mark, and that's what I want to do here. But again, all that sort of takes time. I think. The one thing that the fans will know with me is that I've set my mind to do something. I'll see it through, and hopefully I can bring some special times to the football club.
In the media, we talk about Ange Ball. You'll be familiar with that, but how would you describe your football, and what will the fans see on the pitch?
Yeah, look. Again, I've always got to be careful how I frame these things because for some reason they get set in stone. But I do like my teams to play exciting football, score goals, get fans excited for sure. I'll make no apologies about that. That's just the way I am and the way I want to see my teams play. And we want to dominate the ball. We want to put pressure on the opposition. We want to score goals. But all of it with the end goal of winning football games. Because that's what excites me more than anything else. If you win football games, then you can win trophies. And, there's no doubt that, from my perspective, I see a group of players and the opportunity to build something that I think, not just for Forest fans, but for everyone watching the game, will be good to watch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Dan for ITV, please.
Hi, Ange. A quick question for clarity. You say, well, we know you win a trophy in your second season.
I've won a couple in my first as well. Celtic, I won a double in my first year, so
there you go. Going to win one in your first then?
Yeah, well, of course I can, yeah. I mean, I may have to have a second year here, mate. So, yeah.
If you do, there'll be comparisons with Brian Clough here, obviously. Yeah. How much of an inspiration is he to you, and do you see any similarities?
there will never be any comparison between me and Brian Clough. He's a standalone legend. He's one of these figures that you can't compare to as a manager, as a man. I've often said I'm a student of the game, and growing up on the other side of the world, I was a voracious sort of reader of anything I could, and he's one of the most legendary figures going around. And he did it at a football club where no one expects that kind of thing, and I love that because it means it's a little bit different. I want to be a little bit different. I've tried to be a little bit different. I've just got a different journey to everyone else, pretty much in the Premier League. So, he's a standalone figure, mate. There'll be never any comparison between me and him. But if I can bring similar joy that he brought to this football club and to this city, I'll be a very, very happy man.
And finally, from me, what's your message to the supporters that will be coming to Arsenal to watch your first game?
Look, hopefully, they'll get behind the team like they always do, and excited about the possibilities of what we can achieve. The club's back in Europe. That's a fantastic incentive for us to really, create something special along with the domestic competitions, and hopefully they see an enthusiasm in the team. Look, the players have been fantastic. It's like I said, they've had to process it, but they also understand that they have a responsibility to this football club to make sure they perform. The last game wasn't great, so you've got to take that into account and say, well, we want to make it amends for that, irrespective of what's happened in between, because we want to make sure that our supporters go home happy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.